They filming this?
You ready?
Are they filming this?
Either or.
I'll shut this off because I don't want the crickets to start. Oh, we're ready. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for the 26th of March of 2018. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay, I'd like to skip opening comments if that's possible.
Absolutely.
Richie, you okay with that? We're going to get right to the ongoing business, the opening, the citizens forum. Do you want to come up here? Is it? We'll see if the. Yeah, sure. Yeah, can she?
Yeah. Would that be okay if I come up?
Yeah, sure. Yep. No, it's easier because you got a bunch of stuff there. Okay, Christine, make sure you're talking to the microphone. This is Christine Liscio.
Because the sun is right in my eyes. So thank you very much for opening up the Selectmen's meeting to the Lowlands neighbors who had concerns regarding flooding. I want to welcome Mr. Perry to the town of Nahant, and also want to publicly thank the Board of Selectmen, the DPW, the fire, police, and emergency management services, departments of Nahant, for really coming to the aid of the Lowlands neighbors during the most recent coastal flooding events. I was up here in January. I don't think you were here, Richie. I met with Enzo NT and the town administrator. And at that time, I had brought forth a petition with 13 names of residents in the lowlands who were looking for the selectmen to open the warrant. Well, it was actually not closed at that time, but to place an article on the warrant to open the storm drain at the end of Castle Road and install a pump to help with our drainage issues. And at that time, the feeling was that it wasn't necessary to have an article because there would be funding in the budget. But since I think some of the spending issues have been maybe taken off the table with constraints, we're here tonight to ask that the selectmen do everything in their power to help us fund this drainage repair and installation of a pump in the lowlands, as it is something that we feel is a really an immediate need and a townwide safety issue. The January 4th and March 2nd flooding events significantly impacted the town of Nahant, but they also caused a public safety issue for all of the residents of Nahant. The flooding in the most recent storm resulted in the closing of Nahant Road, and residents from Nahant were prevented from getting to the mainland, and it was impossible to come to or leave Nahant, Big Nahant. We were really fortunate that there were no fires during that storm, as one of the fire engines was stationed in Little Nahant and became stranded when that road closed. If a fire had occurred and we needed mutual aid, no other community would have been able to enter Nahant because of Nahant Road being closed. If someone had needed ALS, Advanced Life Support Ambulance, that wouldn't have been possible either because Nahant Road was closed and inaccessible. So it impacts the safety and health of all residents in Nahant, not just the lowlands neighborhood, when Nahant Road closes. And this is not the first time that Nahant Road has closed due to flooding. So the town of Nahant really needs to protect its citizens, and with this issue, it is a townwide issue for protecting lives and citizens. In addition to this public safety concern, the lowlands critical infrastructure resides Nahant's critical infrastructure resides in the lowlands. You have the 3 major utilities there. You have a sewage pumping station. You have National Grid's electric substation. And you also have a natural gas substation, all housed in the lowlands, which is a known flooding area. During this most recent storm, there was so much water in the lowlands that the sewage pumping station was very close to having a flooding situation and overflow capacity. And so this would have resulted in a town-wide public health and safety concern as well. When the sewage station closed last year, you brought in trucks round the clock to pump it out. While Nahant Road is closed, if that situation had happened, trucks can't come in and out of Nahant, nor can they even get into the lowlands because it's underwater. So sewage would back up throughout the lowlands neighborhood, and this does create a public health and safety concern. So Nahant really needs to protect its critical infrastructure. The residents of the lowlands neighborhood, many of whom are here, were also significantly impacted by the flooding. Their homes and basements and residential properties remained for days in floodwaters, and it actually required 5 large diameter pumps that were borrowed from FEMA and MEMA, working 24 hours a day for 4 to 5 days to return the water, millions of gallons of water back to the ocean. This standing water contains bacteria, pesticides, fertilizer, sewage, trash, and other pollutants, and it creates a public health risk to the families and the children who live in the neighborhood. And I really feel, and we all feel, that Nahant needs to protect its children and its families. And although there are limits to what a town can do to prevent major coastal flooding, there are some things that can be done to keep the water out of the neighborhood when it occurs, or to get it out more quickly. And many, many of these residents have come before the Town Conservation Commission, Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, Planning Board, and DPW since 2013, trying to bring flooding concerns to your attention. And it wasn't all this same group. There have been many different people sitting in those chairs. But due to the activism of Nahant Lowlands residents, there have been some improvements in the drainage. Some of the ditches have been cleared. Dune grass was planted on Short Beach, and we did succeed in restricting some of the development on Short Beach, which we were concerned would increase flooding. But despite all of that activism, many of our concerns remain unheard. Alarmingly, a 1995 Army Corps study was requested by the town of Nahant after the 91 coastal event. And in this, 4 times, each one of these pink tabs, it mentions the drain at the end of Castle Road being blocked, and that as a remedy to improve drainage to the lowlands. 23 years have gone by, and that repairable problem has remained. So this report also goes on to talk about maintenance of the ditches, which were neglected at that time. It also goes on to talk about the risk of Nahant becoming isolated from the mainland and the critical infrastructure that resides in the lowlands. So a lot of this, 23 years ago, is exactly as it was during these most recent storms. And we feel that the time to act is now. We really need the town leadership to correct this problem so that we don't go any longer with such a risk to lives and property. In addition to the drainage issues that we have, some of it has actually gotten worse. The compost area is now soaring 25 feet up in the air. It's a solid mass. It's in a floodplain. We're in violation. We have allotted $10,000 a year to clear it out, but every year it either gets bigger or remains the same or moves to a different spot. But if you can see on this map, the water that comes in from Short Beach goes right around that solid mass and is diverted into Spring Road neighborhood and into the lowlands. This should be a neighborhood that really allows, this floodplain should allow water to pass through. So we really need to address the issue in the compost area.
I don't need one, because I have a garage there, don't forget.
I know, you got it this time, right?
So I know exactly
You
what's...
know exactly. And I know that there is a plan in place, but perhaps the money, and we talked about this in January, that's allotted for removal is not sufficient. Or maybe we need to relocate the compost area to an area of town where it's not in a floodplain, or at least prohibit compost coming in. But for 23 years, we've been aware of these issues, and we really, really need to move forward. It seems like a really easily repaired problem. This is another map I drew. Right now, the floodwaters from the lowlands are expected to go through a very complicated ditch system uphill 3 times, because I've seen the map where it actually reverses direction, and then go into the golf course, and then eventually out to Nahant Bay. That's assuming that when the water gets to the golf course, it's empty and can accept water. But as we know, Willow Road is another area that's been terribly flooded during the storm, and it's full of water, so the water just sits in this bowl. A much more simple route is the end of Castle Road, which is just a direct route out into Lynn Harbor, so that the water could be pumped from the golf course and Willow Road area out into Nahant Harbor, and from the lowlands area out into Lynn Harbor. It was noted in the study. It seems pretty clear on paper that that's the direct route for the water to follow. So we've been waiting a long time to address this problem. We really are looking to this Board of Selectmen and Town Manager to really have the leadership and champion this project with us so that we can address this town-wide safety and public health concern. There are the immediate priorities, which would be the Castle Road drain, the pump for the lowlands, and the drainage of the ditches. But we'd also like to see the Short Beach parking lot return to gravel. I know, Enzo, you were on the Concom when you dug up that surface and made it gravel, and then sometime around 2014, it was repaved. And though several of us went before the Conservation Commission and were assured by the commission and by the acting town manager at that time that it would be regraded, it remains a hard-packed surface, so that when water enters the parking lot, it just sits like a swimming pool, and it actually diverts water into the lowlands neighborhood.
So you need to grind that up.
Yep, we were told in 2014, Mark Cullinan had said in the fall they would regrind it, and it never happened.
Let me ask you a question. You people would know better. That ditch was supposed to have been dredged from the end, which is Ward Road, all the way to the golf course last year.
Last year, there was a grant for that, and from what we can see, it was done, the Ward Road section was done to the culvert, and that's all that was done. I know that there was money allotted to do more. I know that there was plan to do more, but I don't believe it went beyond that section. And I came before you in January with pictures of it, and it was, overgrown and not draining. It sits with water most of the time.
Right.
A pump in the Castle Road storm drain, if we could have a drain that goes into Lynn Harbor and a pump there, we could pump out those ditches prior to a storm. I know that's one of the things in this that you do, try and pump out Bear Pond, but with a pump in the lowlands, we could pump out that area and be more storm ready. It would help. So the drainage ditches, the compost area, the parking lot needs to be regraded. I'm trying to see. We did want to look at, for emergency management. It felt like this storm, we were prepared in some ways, and they were tireless. I mean, the DPW emergency management group, they were out there day and night, and you were out there, Enzo, and I saw you and others riding around town. But it would be really helpful that we secure pumps and have them in place and ready to go at the time of a storm. I mean, we had a lot of advance notice for this storm as opposed to other storms, and so if they were already hooked up and in place, we wouldn't be trying to do that in the middle of a storm, which is kind of what happened. It took a lot of phone calls to you guys, because I know I talked to all of you, the police, the fire department, and you probably heard from a lot of my neighbors too, before we got one pump down into the lowlands. And after 24 hours of pumping, it went down an inch. And so if we can pump out between tides, it doesn't keep filling, and we don't get to the point where we have so many millions of gallons of water. I don't want to take up everyone's time, and I know you all have a time limit.
No, plenty of time.
We do want to talk a little bit also about cleanup. We want to commend the DPW. Those roads become impassable with sand and rock and debris after the tide, and they are amazing. They get right out there and they cleaned that up and made the roads passable again as soon as possible. We would like to work with them so that when they take material from the street, that they don't bring it to the DPW lot, but they put it right back on the beach. When that washes out, the beach is lower, and then the next tide floods even more. So if the material is returned to the beach, then there's a little bit of a berm there or a dune that might help prevent a little more flooding. So just working with them, pumping, let's see. We also would like the Board of Selectmen in the town to work with the Conservation Commission to work with violators who are removing debris, lowering the beach, paving in wetlands and dune areas, because we have seen the beach on Castle Road be completely denigrated, and that is where we get a lot of flooding in the neighborhood. Massachusetts law does protect homeowners from waters being diverted into their properties by other homeowners, even if it's unintentional. So we would ask that the Board of Selectmen work with the Concom, because they are the enforcement agency in town, to go after violators and to help us build up that beach for the long term. And we do commend the town for working with FEMA to get the flood maps established, because now we can go after some mitigation money, and I think there is a lot of money and grant money to be available. Hopefully, I'm willing to work with you, and I think many of the neighbors would, to try and secure some funds to address some of these issues. But most immediately, we ask your support in putting a warrant on the an article on the warrant for the 2018 town meeting. The cost of the pump for the Bear Pond was $47,000 plus engineering. We could do something similar to that in the lowlands, in the Castle Road drain situation. But in any event, it's something that I think is long overdue. We've waited a long time, and we have a lot of really great hydrology, geology, wind, tide, all kinds of information in this study, so I've made you your own copy. It was big, so I only made one for you to review, but perhaps we can include some of that in our planning for the town, for our neighborhood anyway, because it's really just for the lowlands neighborhood. Thank you for your time. You have a copy here of what we were suggesting.
Okay, I didn't.
For the article. Did you all get one of these?
Yes.
Okay,
I didn't.
right. And basically, the article is just to appropriate, and I'm not the person to come up with the figure, but that was what was appropriated last year, the $175,000 to deal with the drainage issues. And I know there's still a need for a gravity pump at Bear Pond.
It's been put into the budget.
Okay.
It's already been put into the
For
budget.
that, so this would be separate.
It's already been put into the budget, I can tell you that, so.
Okay, we appreciate that. It's something we feel we definitely
But
need.
you do want to have, can I, Dennis, would you mind coming up and speaking on just for a minute? Is there a plan in place for this pump? Because,
No, there isn't.
all right.
I don't see it. I see, the budget I saw, there was a portable pump, but not a fixed pump for specifically our neighborhood. And I think we see that after the storm, we need our own pumping solution. Bear Pond has a pump right now. You can pump out before, you can try and keep up with it. We have nothing. We
Well,
have
I
it-
saw the water coming backwards, because I was there the whole night.
Yeah.
And the water's just coming this way.
Well, right now, we've become the place for the whole town to drain too.
Right. So, and Dennis, the other thing I wanted to ask you was, those ditches weren't dredged the whole way, huh? No.
Northeast Mosquito Control had given us a grant. I think the grant value was about 38 grand, to dredge portions, the worst portions of those ditches, one of which was Wood Road and several culverts within the Heritage Trail portion of the system. The other, probably longer section was the 6th Green from Mitchell's Corner to the first bridge on that green. Richie, I'm not sure from a linear foot
So you
standpoint.
never went across the street?
Couldn't go across the street just because of, actually, it was planned in first week of February.
So none of the ditches were cleaned from Ward Road?
They were cleaned from Ward Road
From Ward Road to?
to,
What, to the culvert?
to several culverts within Heritage Trail.
Where?
Heritage, I want to call it the West
Oh,
Nile
okay,
Trail.
so,
Where the old,
Trail.
where the old pump house
because
was.
we were told, we were under the impression that it was gonna be, the whole thing was gonna be done. That's what
My-
we were led to believe by the previous administrator.
Yeah, my,
so-
my standing orders, based upon the grant, I have a plan, I'll find the paperwork for you, was Ward Road, culverts that needed to be cleaned within the Heritage Trail, and the portion of Kelly Green's golf course,
Right.
so.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wants?
I wonder why there's a problem.
You want us, T wants to?
But I do think that's something we need to look at as well, like a maintenance schedule for the drainage ditches as well as storm drains, because back in that 1995 study, it mentions that, you know, the ditches weren't maintained back then. And so it's been sporadic at best and not really
It's supposed to
efficient.
be done every year. Every year, that ditch is supposed to be dredged from Ward Road all the way to the end. That's what we pay for.
Right. I will say this year, Dennis made sure they did it properly, that they took the material out instead of putting it on the banks, because previous years, when they did do sections, they would build up the banks so the water can't even get into them.
Right.
It just flows around into the neighborhood.
Oh, just one last thing, T. You know that when you guys repaired the catch basins down on Fox Hill Road,
Yes,
were those tied into that drain that goes out to
Yeah.
Doggy Beach?
yes.
They are, okay.
There's a manway.
I saw the manhole, we put 3 pumps in there.
Yeah, it's in, no. Yeah, it's in front of a tree.
Well, that's the
But-
manhole for,
Yeah, so right in back of Chris's house and the Collegiero's house, there's a manhole cover.
Yeah.
That's where the system tees off.
Okay.
So it goes from Fox Hill to the Ward Road ditch, and then there's a T behind Christian's house that goes across Castle Way.
as long as it's
Castle Road.
tied in, so that they, you know.
I have
dedicate something
that
to that.
information.
I mean, I had, we
You
had.
went
the-
down with cameras. You went down with the camera and,
Yeah, I had an opportunity when we were down at Fox Hill Road several months ago at this point. I put a camera in the pipes just to see what the conditions were. From Fox Hill to Castle Road, they were in excellent shape. I did get a camera in the T. I tried to get it across Castle Road, but because of the way the system was built, I couldn't get the machine up. All right, it was a trap. That's the way the pipe was engineered. So I needed a different machine to get up, but from a linear foot standpoint, I went a pretty good distance, and the pipe was in pretty good shape. So it's a matter of just getting the right machine in there and testing it.
I looked at the back today, and it's a lot of huge boulders, but I don't know if it's more than that blocking the drain.
Well, there was-
Really
yeah,
needs
there's
some investigation. We haven't looked from that direction, but
Can I, Enzo, I just want to say, I'm Dennis Ball, I'm your former DPW director.
thank you for your help, Dennis.
I'm currently still the emergency manager. I left the job probably a month, 45 days or so ago. I was around for the storm. Thank you. I heartfelt, believe me. We did the best we could. Unfortunately, God had a bigger hand than we do. So thank you for your patience. Again, my heart goes out to you. We did what we could do. We were prepared in the sense that we had equipment on the island. We had 9 good-sized pumps on the island, ready in preparation for the storm. The storm just beat us. As the first tide was coming in, we pumps at Bear Pond. They got wiped out. This pipe came in, they shut them down. Lost the equipment. Bear Pond applied to the storm.
I know, I understand. It's half an hour. I know, they can't hear you, Dennis, at home.
We appreciate what you did. I mean, we saw you guys out there working.
For your neighborhood in particular, we were dealing with some other engineering challenges. We were this close. We're losing, we were balancing a lot of things that I couldn't go public with.
I'd like to give you each a copy of this.
One on that aspect, but there were some challenges that we had to progress, so I apologize for not doing what we had to do.
Thank you. Just to go, thank you, Dennis, really, you did a nice job.
There you go, Jerry, more stuff.
Just to go back to the need for a separate warrant article for our neighborhood, it's our concern that, I'm sure they would have done more of the ditch drainage if the money, was allotted to it, but probably it got taken to do something else. So we want to make sure that this money is earmarked for our neighborhood, for our drain, for our pump, so that doesn't happen again, because, as I said, it's been 23 years. It's time for us to act, and this is a town-wide safety issue. It's not just our neighborhood. We are very directly impacted, but the whole town is placed at risk when we flood. Okay. Gave you each a copy of that. You've got the copy of the maps and all. Thank you for your time. So we can,
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Go right ahead.
I move that when we add the following article to the warrant, when we open it, evidently we shouldn't open and close, so it's on number 5 on our agenda. But to see if the town will vote to appropriate $175,000 or any other sum of money to fund drainage improvements to the Ward Road and Bear Pond areas, specifically resolving the gravity outfall at Bear Pond, assessing and fixing the pipes that drain Ward, Fox Hill, and Castle Roads, dredging the whole drainage ditch, I put hole in there, I should have just, and providing a portable or permanent pump to the Ward Road area. This includes the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, and to determine whether the appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it for the discussion.
Discussion.
Discussion, for me, is a 2-year selectman almost.
Excuse me, this is not the article I just received.
No, I did my own.
He's got his own.
He has his own.
Where's the copy of the article?
He's gonna,
It's going to come to you. You probably can't read my handwriting.
Richie, his is a little bit dealing with the engineers and everything to make the language a little bit more
One of the
succinct.
first questions I asked is, the 175,000,
wait a minute, now, T wasn't finished.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought he was finished.
No, Richie's right on. The $175,000, I spent some time with the town administrator and the engineer. This could be a lot of money. We don't know what it will be. I go to promise that the engineer will be involved post-haste sometime this summer. Enough is enough as far as I'm concerned. I was born, my wife was born and brought up there, but I went down there all the time. Ward Road used to be called Perry Lane when we used to play basketball as kids. So it killed me to see it underwater for 6 days. And I'm not you. Please, I feel for you. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. Because not only that, right near where you guys are is Nahant Road, and that goes underwater. Then we're cooked. So we have to fix that. Now, I know we have to fix Bear Pond too, but we have to get the water flowing. And I said this in January, and I'll say it again. My father was born and brought up in Nahant, and they found a way 100 years ago to make water run that way into Lynn Harbor. And people are like, oh, the sand dunes, and oh, the Conservation Commission, baloney. We gotta make it happen, guys. That's how I look at it. So I'm gonna put this in. The actual portable permanent pump, this all depends on how much things cost. My sense is that it will be relatively easy, but I don't know. I'm not an engineer, nor do I want to be an engineer. And I talked at length with the town administrator and the engineer today. This will work. This gets on the warrant, and we come to town meeting. Thank you.
Richie?
Well, I'm not sure exactly, you've got several problems down there that it's not an easy fix. That pipe running from Castle Road to Kelly Greens, the original pipe was like this, and it drained into the harbor. It was on a flow, and it drained pretty good. But the sand dune over in Doggy Beach just filled up and just buried that pipe. That's where the problem is, it's buried. You do need a pump now, okay? But the pump is like number 3 on the list. We've got to take that drainage ditch and clean it. I mean clean it and dig it down and reline it, okay? Reline it so it's a better flow going both ways, okay? All the way to Kelly Greens, okay? And the other one is the pump over by Castle Road in that drain. You're gonna build a huge well there, like, and then have the pump, okay? The problem is, it's gonna have to go on someone's land. I mean, it's gonna be, and then blocking it. But, I mean, I lived on Foxwell Road. I know the story, I know the pump. We used to ice skate, and, it was never, this was the worst flooding we've ever had. And not only for Lowlands, but for Willow Road too. Believe me, I was firsthand at that. But we need a lot of engineering, and we need to identify the problem. The 175, we need to build a seawall on Castle, in back of, I was gonna say Sean Canty's house. I know Sean Canty, further down, coming all the way to Richie Nebrigge's house, which is, just on the other side of the beach. The beach, or right to the end. So that water is coming in from the beach area all the way down, and it comes right down Castle, Road, and right down the Foxwell Road. It's coming in that way. The other problem is coming from the Coast Guard. And the 78 blizzard, it came both ways, just like it did this time. This time you had a lot of water, so you're just inundated with water. The pumps would help. We need to drain down all these pumps and the ponds and get prepared, okay? We need to buy more high-speed 10-inch pumps, the really big ones. And you gotta get prepared, but, the problem is money, okay? It's gonna cost a lot of money. Not only you people on Fox Hill, Castle, and you want yours fixed, and I think the board's all in favor of doing that, okay? But we also need to fix, Willow Road too. They gotta get, they got flooded out too. They got really, water came right through and right down. It was like unbelievable storm surge. But I want to make sure that we appropriate the areas and the money in this article. It's not going to be 175,000. It's going to be a lot more, and we got to address that. And then how are we going to do it? We need to sit down with the finance people and say, okay, we need to borrow it, okay? We need to apply for federal funds, but the federal funds don't come for another 2 years. We have to pay for that borrowing, and we've got to, the town has to pay. We run the number up. we pay for the problem, and then hopefully we get FEMA money or the state or federal money back from it. That's hopefully, okay? In the meantime, we have to raise the tax rate, okay, to pay for it, because we're at the max now on funding. And we've got a lot of serious issues sitting on the table. But we've got to make sure that you don't get hit again, okay? And again, we've only got 5 people at the Public Works Department, which is another problem. We have insufficient Public Works people. They were working around the clock. And they did a great job. And Dennis he left the job, he was coming around, running around, it was like unbelievable. And I knew, Fox Hill, because I knew that was gonna get flooded. I knew it because I used to deliver papers to, the Krauses, the Gilmans, and, all the way down Fox Hill. And I feel sorry for, Kristen Howard, he just got whammed because it settled right down there, and it flooded the whole area. That was just, the end of the zone. But that's the lack of that pipe going to Doggy Beach. And the water had no place to go in those ditches because they were full.
Even if they were empty, I've sat with Jeff Shelton and looked at that drainage ditch map. It goes uphill in 3 places, and the water will not go uphill. It is not a viable option for our neighborhood.
No.
Those ditches really don't do anything to help drainage. The drainage.
So we need pumps. We need pumps all the way down the line there. And I'm talking the 10-inch main, high-speed pumps. And when it comes, we gotta have personnel to man those, because they've gotta be manned 24/7 once we start them. But, hopefully we'll get started, if we get half this year, maybe half next year to get these things done. I mean, this is a serious flooding issue on Fox Hill, Castle.
It's been one that's been there for 23 years.
No, it has, and I'll be honest with you.
We've got the engineering. It's in this report.
No,
Wind, tide, it's all done. Our neighborhood it's a huge report with a lot of good information. So there's a lot of study. My concern is that we don't just keep studying and studying.
No. I think you know me long enough. We're gonna take action. We're gonna vote on this. And we gotta get up at town meeting and convince the voters that come to town meeting. You all have to come to town meeting, to get it passed.
It was on the table last year, and you guys took it off because of the concern with the sewage problem on the Linway.
Right.
So we've already had it on, and we were all ready to support it, and it was taken off before it was even discussed.
And of course, the sewage problem on the Linway cost us, millions of dollars?
Right.
That was just out of the blue. Let me tell you,
That could have happened during this storm, and that's a huge.
if we didn't empty those 9 satellite pump stations for the sewer, and the major pump station with those tanker trucks, we would have had to shut off the water for 3 days.
But they wouldn't have gotten in this storm. If that had happened, they couldn't get in and out of town.
I want to tell you,
Lowlands is flooded.
this, emergency vehicles in Nahant get out. The causeway, if it gets flooded, the high road and the causeway is the walkway. The causeway's here, the walkway. Our emergency vehicles can drive down, it's the width of a fire truck. When they put that in, they made sure that was higher, so we can get out that way. All the way down to the thing, even the cruisers. We put a fire truck over, it's normal protocol that we separate a fire company, pumper, and put it in Little Nahant. And there's probably 6 or 8 men manning that. If we have a quick fire, okay, and then, of course, we have, the backup system the fire department uses, for mutual aid. So, and usually, if we ever have a fire in Little Nahant, they're pretty good. They come, we had that one fire in Little Nahant, and boy, I tell you, they did well.
I hate to tell you this, but I gotta cut you off because we're getting close to our executive session meeting, all right?
Well, I don't think we should just hold off on executive session. This is more important. They want to know And we're gonna support you, and I'm gonna make sure, this selectman, I think the other two, we need to support you. But you've gotta support us. When these articles go in the warrant, you've gotta come and make sure you support it, get up and, because if you don't, it will fail. Because there's gonna be a lot of other articles, a lot of other issues facing the town right now that are pressing too. And I'm telling you, the money is extremely tight. I mean, the budget is, we've got a balanced budget, but it's extremely tight.
Okay, we're looking at $4 million for the water and sewer. We're looking at, other issues, he's right, okay? But there are ways, there's different ways, okay? We can get into this municipal vulnerability program, okay? Preparedness program, all right? It defines extreme weather. We have to, as a town, define extreme weather and natural and climate-related hazards, okay? Identify existing and future vulnerabilities and strengths, develop and prioritize actions for the community, and identify opportunities to take action to reduce risk and build resilience. That's one of them. We can get grant money for this. This is what I've been trying to tell people, okay? So we need engineering for this. We just can't go, I understand you have this, the Army Corps of Engineers, but it doesn't tell you where to place the pumps. I can tell you, I was down there the whole storm, and all the rocks beyond Petrucci's wall, that's what's plugging up, that's what's blocking up that pipe. Now, from
Can you read it?
Castle Road out, we don't know if it's broken. I will tell you that we put three pumps in there, Dennis? 2 or 3 pumps in that 8-inch pumps in that manhole, and it didn't drain it at all. It just kept pumping and pumping and pumping. So that tells me that there's water getting in there somehow.
A phone call.
So that's where you would probably have to dedicate the pump.
Then I made it up.
I understand that. I understand that. I totally understand that. We need to identify how we're gonna stop the breach at Short Beach, because a lot of water comes from there. How are we gonna stop it from Willow Road? How are we gonna stop it from Castle Road? Castle Road is at sea level. The water just comes right over. So that needs to be stopped. Otherwise, it's gonna be like putting a straw in a swimming pool.
But drainage in lowlands was identified as a major.
That's right.
23 years ago.
That's right.
Drainage in lowlands remains a major issue. We will get occasional flooding. We may not be able to stop it, but we need to get the water out of the.
That's right. There was you had 2 10-inch pumps in that, 2 from Merrick, and I was there. I helped set them up, and they. Yeah, well,
No fault of the DPW or emergency management, but they were already full of water from 2 tides.
yep.
The 3rd tide flooded the neighborhood, then built.
Oh, I know. I was there.
By the time, they put 1 pump in initially, millions of gallons of water, another tide. So we need a system.
Christine,
Where I'm sorry. We need a system where we are pumping out before the storm. We need a system where we're pumping out between the tides, like you do at Bear Pond.
That's right.
And unless we're eliminating the water between each high tide, we will continue to build. And I appreciate the need to have engineering and studying, but we can't wait any longer. We can't wait another 23 years. We've been patient. We have lost property, possessions, our home values have dropped. Nobody is going to buy our homes right now because of this. And we put the town at risk. So it has to be a priority.
That's right.
And-
We don't disagree with you.
Okay.
I don't disagree
You
with
say
you.
that, but then
I'm
when you
just-
talk to me,
No.
I feel like you're disagreeing with me.
No, absolutely not. But I want to do it, right, okay? I don't want, I really, right along Castle Road where your mother-in-law used to live, T, that area there, that has to be armored better. Right down to Lisa Rizzo's house, it has to be armored better. It's not, and that water just comes over and over and over. Short Beach has gotten better with the dunes, but we need to have a dune project. We need to have people stop. You're absolutely right. I tried stopping several people on Castle Road when I was on the Concom.
You know, we've sent letters, videotape, emails.
Yep.
I've been before the Concom. So that's why we're asking for enforcement.
Okay, so,
That's your job to make the Concom.
okay.
Can I say-
Veronica?
Yes. So I have a little bit of a concern because I'm listening to Christine speak and I'm listening to her say last year it was supposed to go on and it got removed. And then this storm hits and what I understand is down on Willow Road to the beach, that seawall is a mess.
Yeah.
So I'm presuming that's going to take precedence over our pumps and all of our stuff. As far as seawalls over there and dunes, the properties are right up on the water. How are you going to put dunes over there on Doggy Beach? I'm not understanding how that's going to work, but I guess that's engineering. But I'm getting concerned that all of this, that damage that has been done around town, I know that flood insurance doesn't cover the wharf anymore, so if that gets ruined, that comes right from the town. We have to borrow for that. I understand that that seawall would cost $1 million to replace over on Tudor Beach. I mean, that's huge, and that's gonna, yeah, exactly. And so I feel like when we get all this money and it's all pulled into one thing from the damage, it's all gonna go over there, and we're not gonna get what we want, and it's gonna be business as usual for down in this area, which, as Christine says, it got removed last year before we even had this storm. Furthermore, maintenance in this town, as far as just maintenance, just DPW maintenance, and it's not to put down the DPW, there's not a DPW department, 5 people, come on. So maintenance in the town, the money needs to go there. So now you come down to, where is the money going? What is going on in the town? How is this town managed? And I start to question where money's going. When I was up here for the school years and years ago, there was a big fight over steps for 40 steps. There was all this money being poured into putting steps at 40 steps. And according to Christine, for 23 years, we've been looking for a pump. Well, if you weren't going to give it to the school and we needed this pump, why was 40 steps being built? It seems to me that I don't care what you're saying here and how much old time, remember whatever from years ago, the neighborhood's being ignored. And I see where, and clearly see where it's going to go. We're going to get ignored again, and I don't mean to be confrontational, but it's clear of 23 years. That's mine.
Did you ever speak on that?
Jerry, go ahead.
Evening, everybody. A lot of frustration out there. I relate to that because there's been no town administrator who understands the lowlands, I think, better than I, because I stayed down there in the blizzard of 7/8 at my parents' house on Castle Way, up to my knees in water in the living room. So I get how tough it is down there. A couple things just to educate you. The selectmen are aware of some of these things I thought I'd share with you. We did, at the insistence of the Board of Selectmen, I think they're going to vote this, but we'll see how it goes. But we did shuffle around some of the warrants. We're going to take some articles off the table tonight at my recommendation, which all 3 of them are aware of, to try to make this happen from a budgetary perspective. Richie is 100% correct. The money's pretty tight in this town, and it's even tighter than a lot of people really understand. So it's important that you as citizens of the town be privy to that. So the things that T. Taylor has put together, I spent 2 hours with the engineer today and with Dennis. I want to thank him for helping me today a little bit. We are going to be able to do some of the things you're talking about. I would be surprised if the selectmen don't vote for this. And there's an old line, don't oversell your product. I think you've won your battle already, but I think we can do a lot of stuff for the 175. What the major concern we have is what the condition of that pipe is going out from, off of Water Road across from what I call the old drugstore and across Castle Road out to Doggy Beach. So we're going to have to wait on that. And Dennis and I had a long conversation about that. I think we're going to get there this year. The concern I have, and I want to be upfront with you, is what we discover as we go along. We don't know the answers to those questions yet, so 175 may not be enough. We'll have to wait and see, but at least my instincts are we can do something going forward after July 1st. The other thing I'd share with you, which the selectmen are also aware of, last Monday I went around town with FEMA and MEMA myself. I spent a good half hour on Ward Road with those guys, and I showed them what was going on down in the lowlands area. I was very explicit as to the concerns and the height of the water and everything else, so they got it. I can tell you that as of tonight, Mr. Chairman, and we're still counting, we have damage in the vicinity of $1.2 million to the town, and we're still counting as to the storm that occurred there, the things at Tudor Beach and things of that nature. And as Richie alluded to, how that's going to work is we're going to put that off to the side. We're adding everything up. We're going to go out and try to correct as much as we can, if not all of it, cleaning up and fixing things. And then we'll be getting reimbursement from FEMA, we believe about 75%. As an example, the state used to get kicking another 12.5%, but that has stopped. So there is concerns. But we have up to 10 years to borrow on that, and we'll try to get reimbursement on that. Bottom line to it is we are on top of this stuff. At least I am after a week and a half of being here. And I don't want to speak for the selectmen. It's a policy decision, but I think there were two things. One is I think they're cognizant of your concerns, and I think you'll get some relief tonight. But second, Enzo's 100% right. It's a bigger picture. It's more than just lowlands. It's Willow Road, it's Tudor Beach, it's Marginal Road, it's everywhere that the storms are just coming at us. And I think we have to have a longer conversation going forward. But I wanted to share some of those numbers, Mr. Chairman, and just let the citizens know that we had FEMA and MEMA down in the neighborhood as well.
We are going to get it done. And I, don't get me wrong, I'm not against this by any means. I want it done right. I don't want to do it, you don't do it twice. I don't believe in doing it twice. I believe in doing it once, okay? And I'm looking for people to serve on this board that is going to work with me, all right? Because I already sent the letter in to get rolling on this because there is money out there. And actually, Tony Barletta was the one that fired me up on it. Tony and I talked quite a bit, and he got me fired up on it. So, and he put me in the direction of the right people in the state, and that's what we did. I did it. We're going to join it. We're going to get grant money. That's the way to go. Engineering. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? I need people to be on this committee for not just Fox Hill Road, of the lowlands. It's got to be Willow. It's got to be everywhere. Bass Point, they got inundated. And I understand you are in the lowest part of the town. At lowlands, it's lowlands. You know, I mean, there's a drain right in the girls' softball field. There's a cap right there. So there's water everywhere.
If I may,
Go ahead, T.
please. This is fine. To me, it's all rhetoric. We take the pipe, we clean the pipe, we clean the ditches, we pump the water out. What else do you have to do? For starters. That's where I'm at, you guys. It's mind-boggling to me. I spent every single day going down by where you guys were. There has to be we need to work on procedures. If there's a big storm coming, we need to get out there and which they did. But again, we have 5 people on DPW. So, I mean, we need to work on a lot of things, but I don't care about that right now. What I care about is getting this, if we clean that pipe, from what I understand, Christine told me it's a 20-inch pipe. That's a big old pipe.
In the report, it says at some points it's 36 inches.
36 inches at some places. If we could somehow, look, I'm not an engineer. I was telling Jerry on the phone, look, all I want to do is have it done. Just do it. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Shavinsky.
Michael Shavinsky, 48 Castle Road. Most of you know who I am. If you don't know, I spent a lot of time out during the flood. I was in your backyards. I was in the pumps. I carried Marsha from her home. I saw things that I don't want to see again. I lost personal property. Neighbors lost personal property. Richie, I know what you went through. I thank you guys for all that you did for us and for the town. But like I said, there's stuff out there. Just perusing the internet today. Salem is looking for $15 million to do their seawalls for grants, okay? I understand Jerry comes to us with great knowledge working with the state with the grants. That's where we need to jump on. Christine with the pumps is a great idea. So when I was walking the Heritage Trail the nights of the flooding to see where the water was going, I found a tennis ball and I put it in the water and it flowed towards lowlands. And that's up on the middle of Fox Hill Road where she's saying it rises up a couple times. So when we actually got, and Enzo, there was actually 2 10s, a 6, and the 3 submersibles at one time. So we were moving water. Once we started moving water, we actually went up 3 inches because gravitational pull of the water, it relieved that pressure, and we actually went up 3 inches. So that's what was the extra day of pumping. So to be there, to be so hands-on And I thank Dennis, I'm glad you're here. I mean, Enzo was out 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So, I mean, it was to no one's fault, no one to blame. It's Mother Nature. But like I said, I like the action. I watched the meeting last week, your neighborhood. They came together, they wrote a nice letter, got some great ideas. You can see by the amount of people here in this group, we're passionate. We want to stay in our homes. We want to have our homes, for the future, for our children. And we thank you that all you can do, and if we can help in any way, please reach out to us.
Thank you. We're gonna, trust me, we're gonna do something, because it's just all talk. It's
Right.
been talk for the past, I don't disagree with you. It was talk last year. I'm very disappointed that those ditches weren't dredged. You have no idea
It's not so much
how-
just, it's
my-
not
my-
so much just cleaning them out. They got to be graded
Listen,
properly too.
if
That's
you-
the problem.
If you listen to that $175,000 last year, and I'll say this once, and once only, the $175,000 was gonna be for pumps on the golf course, dredging the ditches, and fixing your catch basins down there. We achieved that without spending the $175,000. It was done, they fixed the catch basins, they tied them into the ditch, and they were supposed to have dredged the ditch. Now, I find out they didn't. Well, no, they were supposed to dredge the whole thing. We were told it was gonna be dredged. Richie and I were under the impression, and T, I would hope, that it was gonna go from the golf course, Richie, all the way to the Ward Road. That's how I understood it. So that's all you were gonna get, trust me, all right? I'm just telling you that's how it was gonna work.
I believe it was also to reestablish that drain.
Reestablish the one on Castle Road.
Castle Road.
Okay.
Help us immensely.
Yeah.
It was also to repair the gravity drain.
It was actually to camera that drain, and Dennis did camera it to a certain point, and then they stopped. For whatever reason, that he was told to stop.
There would have been some things in there for us.
So can we file something tonight that states a group will visit that area soon and decide what is actually going on with it?
We can camera that, Jerry. You can camera that drain anytime you want.
No, we can get a trap. What if we came in from the other way?
We could take all the cameras and block it. There's a blockage there.
It's blocked.
It's all blocked. And you don't need a camera. I know, because I tell you, but, this is, $175,000 is not gonna handle it.
I know, I'm gonna,
And, we gotta get the right number, and then we gotta get some, numbers.
It's a start.
So we know exactly what we're doing and write the article. We might have to call, and we haven't made a final decision, on a special town meeting to address these concerns. And once we voted money, okay, I know the board, we're gonna make sure you get covered this time, okay? We'll make sure you're more priority than Willow Road, I'll be honest with you. The base of Willow Road is fine. The top came loose, sure, yeah. We're gonna clean it up if we have to, but we have to raise that seawall. And we've gotta build the jetty out there. Now, this is long range. We have got all the federal government. They're building jetties up and down the whole, from New Jersey, Delaware. We need a jetty, okay? Building on the Coast Guard beach too, between Little Nahant and Greystone Road. There has to be jetties to prevent the onset. Same with Willow Road. Because if we don't, we're gonna continue getting these storms and the water surge. If you notice, if you go to Shot Beach, there used to be 25, 30 yards of sand from high tide to the base of the rocks. Now, at high tide, there is no sand, and you're up in the rocks. And, that will tell you something. It's very simple. I go down there and I say, look at this. We used to have sand.
We got,
People done it, okay? But I just want
Dave wants to-
we want to make sure this board will vote and make sure that, we're going to cover you. All right? All right? I want to make sure you know that we're going to do our utmost to get your problem fixed. All the documentation and the caboose, we could go on, but we've got to go line by line. How much for this, and then get it done. All right?
all right, Dave,
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. In the article that you mentioned Bear Pond in there, And I would prefer the beer pond get left out of this. The reason being is water goes two directions in this town. The water that's on the golf course goes out that way. The water that's on the north side of Flash Road goes the other way. And you can tell because Lowlands pumped out 3 days or 4 days before the golf course did. And I think you need to keep these two projects totally separate.
I agree.
Earmark this money to the Castle Road, Lowlands area, and have a different article if you're going to deal with Bear Pond, Willow Road, or anything else.
That's what happened, see, this is what happened last year, and that's what I tried to explain to you, that all that money was gonna go strictly to the golf course, that area. And it wasn't, you were gonna get absolutely nothing, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm just telling you that's how it was gonna work, and that's why it was discouraged upon, and I can tell you right now, the Finance Committee, I know that you think that the Finance Committee was for it, they were gonna vote it down. It was gonna come right off the table.
I'm just going to call a question.
All right, anyways, if we take the beer pond out of that portion of your article, then we can say, so we can say it's strictly for the Lowlands area. I think
We're
we're
gonna
going
let
to
Jerry
be
respond
much
to
better
that.
off.
Then I'm gonna call the question because we need to get moving.
I'll call the
Dave,
question.
well, Dave, if I could, it's important. Dave, we spent a lot of time with the engineers. That, according to the engineers, and again, I'm not an engineer, that would be counterproductive to cleaning out that area. They're very adamant that we have to also include Bear Pond as part of the equation here. It will help, according to the engineers, again, I'm not an engineer, it will help the lowlands area. So I would hope you'd respect, I understand your frustrations, but according to those engineers, this is today. We had this conversation today at 2 o'clock.
For Bear Pond, $75,000 for their gravel fund. So we're already down to a much lower number. It's
Yeah,
not
the 175.
You don't focus on 175,000 because that's not the number.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a lot more than that.
Get it going.
We-
For our seniors.
No, to get this thing completed.
We can put a pump in that drain on Castle Road, and you can run a line right, you can sleeve it right out to Doggy Beach. And then it can go on, just like they do at the golf course. They flip them on when the water comes.
We're asking for.
Okay, so that's a possibility.
It's a
That,
pretty simple fix.
Mr. Chairman, I
that
call the
would be-
question.
That would be the simple fix.
Second,
Call the question, please.
second.
All right, so the question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, so it's going to be on as an article. We're going to open the warrant at the end of this executive session, and it will go on, all right?
By the way, Christine, thanks for all the work and effort you
Right.
put into this.
So, we are going into executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn and go into executive session?
So moved.
Okay, we're going to go into executive session to return to open session after the executive session.
Have a sense how long that
This portion of the meeting is adjourned.
By that vote,
Pedro, cut it.
people, we are...
just grab, yeah.
Mark, bring the chairs up here, that's all.
I think she's a lawyer. You don't know. I don't have no clue.
Okay, come on up.
Yeah. Whoa.
Shut the TV off,
Print.
please.
Print name and that would be very helpful to me, okay?
Pedro. No, they're not off. Shut them off.
Orange.
Hold on, because he's not sure if he's...
Folks, we're gonna just pass around a little sign-in sheet, so I have the names of everybody for the minutes, please. If you'd be kind enough to print your name, it would be very, and whatever your title or what you're responding to.
my real name, how's that?
What is, I don't even know what his, what is his?
Francis.
Oh, is it Francis?
He doesn't, he always calls me Chesley, but, you know, I have to call him Enzo.
So your name's Chesley.
Chesley.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, so, unfortunately, our attorney could not be here. Her brother suddenly died today. So I got a phone call from her, so she's not here, Elena. So, but Elena Court from Copeland and Page.